Can you share a little bit difference? How Chabad differs from traditional Orthodox?
Well, you see, whatever I'm going to say is going to open up a whole can of sardines. You must understand, my parents got married more than 60 years ago. They should live and be well. The landscape was very different then. The world was a different world. You must understand the evolution of Orthodox Judaism in America. And Chabad has a very, very central role in this, ideologically. There were Jews in America for a very long time. My ancestors on my mother's side have been in this country since the Civil War, the 1880s, 150 years. And my ancestors were always religious. And they would lose their job. My great-grandfather lost his job every Friday because he wouldn't work on Shabbos. It was terrible. It was very difficult. There was the American Mercedes Nefesh, the American assimilation. For a very, very long time, there was a philosophy amongst American Jews that American Jews are different than Europeans. It's a different land. It's a land which is embracing, which was true. I feel, personally, the Jewish people owe a debt forever to the United States of America. I'm not one of those people who hates America. Why? Because my father's an immigrant. And my father used to talk to me about his upbringing. My children, Baruch Hashem, figured out how to hate America. They become so enlightened, so progressive. But I still love America, you understand? I'm the son of an immigrant. My father was born in Moscow, and he went through the war. Hitler and Stalin, he dealt with both of them as a child. America has been kind to Jews in a historic way. Since the destruction of the temple, there has not been a country that's been more embracing, more accepting, more supportive of the Jewish people than the United States of America. I believe that with my whole heart. And there was a culture amongst Jews that they owed it to America to be American. Which is true, we do. We owe it to America to be American. But in their mind, being American meant being less Jewish. Being American meant that if you're too Jewish, there's something wrong with you being an American. So if you were an Orthodox Jew, it was almost religiously important to you to be very American. So to wear a beard was almost a sin. To behave in a way that set you apart from the American landscape. You know, we live in an America that's called multicultural. We live in America which is all about a mosaic. Our mayor, Dinkins, coined the term a mosaic. There's a lot of different types. When my mother was growing up, there was something called the melting pot. The melting pot meant we're all supposed to be the same. Wherever country you come from, speak English. Wherever country you come from, dress like everybody else, walk like everybody else, look like everybody else, talk like everybody else. My mother belonged to that culture. From Orthodox Jews. But being American was a very big priority to them. My grandparents were born here. My great-grandparents came here as children. In other words, my family, mother's side is very American. But my mother's siblings were very different than my mother's parents. My mother's siblings were already in that generation of Jews who said, you can be very religious, you can look different, and it doesn't make you a bad American. But when my mother was growing up, being a Jew in America meant that as much as it's important to be Jewish, it's important to be American. So there was a philosophy that said you're not allowed to be too religious. And to give you a specific characteristic to focus on, let's say, for the sake of argument, and this is not my opinion, this is just an argument. I gotta be careful over here. You're in my head. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna wake up and I'm thinking about you. You're in my head. That let's just say the Hasidic Jews are very passionate, very emotional, very excited. There were a lot of people who felt, relax. It's America. That's the kind of home my mother grew up in. It's not the kind of home that my mother's brothers and sisters' children grew up in, because they were the next generation. And one of the things that the Lubavitcher Rebbeim did was declare that you're not less of an American if you're more of a Jew. But to my mother's parents, My grandmother, who passed away now, I don't know how many years, 6 or 7 years, she was born in 1923. Never learned a day in a yeshiva. Never. Went to public school her whole life. I used to ask her how she was religious. She didn't even live in a Jewish community. Her closest friend growing up was a black girl, an African American girl. I said, how are you religious? Her parents were tough people, very tough. So Europeans came to this country as teenagers and worked very hard to make a living in America before there was the safety net, before there was the New Deal and the Great Society. They were on their own. They were tough people, but they were deeply religious. And to my grandmother, who I watched her evolve over my lifetime, she was a very important influence in my life. But she slowly gave up that idea. But she raised her kids on that value. And this was the conflict. My mother wanted more of the energy of religion. She wanted the kind of religion that was not good in America. So she needed my chassid. And again, I will deny saying this, but my grandmother wasn't happy about it. She wasn't happy about it. I remember the last time I went to see her in her house. She passed away. Before I went to see her, before she moved to like a retirement, she said to me when, she called my mother Rechi by her name, wanted to date a boy with a beard. They took her to Lakewood. They were trying to save her from the beard. You know what I'm saying? It's part of the family lore. She says, but then Abba, that's my father, came into the house and he was gorgeous. My father had a beard. My father was very handsome. Was gorgeous. So my mother says, well, that's revisionism. It wasn't exactly like that. But she's trying to say that she fell in love with my father. It took a while. My father earned his mother-in-law's respect. But it was a war of worlds. It was a conflict of generations. And it was real. It was very real. It was very real. Where people held that there's something wrong, something un-American, something disrespectful to a land that has been so kind to us if we look different. It's an answer, right? It's an answer.
Thank you. That helps a lot.